Well, hello and welcome to day 5 of the Start of Week online event. So today's theme is keep going or pivot. So what I mean by that is no matter what you're doing, whether it's your business or your personal life or projects or anything going on, at some point you probably have to come to a point where you decide, should I keep going? Should I keep doing what I'm doing? How do I keep going? Should I stop? Should I change direction? So this is something, a theme that we've always had in the Start of Week event since the very first one in 2017. So we've always had the same 5 themes, and it's kind of based on my experience of working in the business startup world over the last 15 plus years, but also lots of books that I've read and entrepreneurs I've spoken to, and the whole lean startup principle around startups. So the idea being that you should regularly be reviewing how things are going, and if things are going well, do more of it, and if they're not going so well, you stop it, and sometimes you just have to kill it off because there's no point persevering with it if people don't want it or it's just not working. So like I say, the themes, we've done this every year when we've done the Start of Week event, and actually since the 1st of December I've been using these themes myself every day, Monday to Friday. During my weekday, my working week, I've been living my life according to the same 5 themes. So Monday's inspiration, Tuesday's getting started, Wednesday's funding and finance, Thursday's growing and scaling, and Friday keep going or pivot. So every Friday I actually stop and reflect on how things have been going that week, and from both a business point of view but also a personal point of view, and think, how has this week gone? Has it gone well? What could I have done better? What can I change to improve it? And I have made some really significant pivots and changes in my life this year, both personally and through business. Some by choice, and others have been forced upon me because of situations, obviously like the COVID lockdown. But I'm really, really pleased with the way this year's gone. Sounds a bit strange, but actually this year's been a really good year for me in every way when I look back at it. So got loads of great speakers coming up today. I'm going to be joined soon. Katie Stidolph, aka the Savvy Stoic, is going to join me for a little chat. So she's actually, we did an amazing interview recently, which is going to be shared later this afternoon, which is all about how Stoicism can help you overcome any obstacles in life. But that's not going to be until later this afternoon, around about 2:00. But in about 5 minutes, she's going to join me, and we're going to talk a bit more about what Stoicism is for her, and what the Savvy Stoic's all about, and various other things. So that's going to be cool. After that, I'm going to do another live stream with John Waite, Phoebe, and Georgia from Advertise One, and they're going to talk about the journey from startup to established micro business over the last few years. Then I'm going to do another live stream with Jeff Ram, celebrity service and OMG marketing keynote speaker. Amazing guy, world-class speaker. So he's going to join me for a live stream around about 11:30. Christina Lord, founder and professional coach for Authentic Action Coaching. She's done another amazing talk on how to activate your power, energize your decision-making, and how to keep going or pivot. And then another brilliant talk from Nicola Jane Little, the founder of Mint Business Club, on pivoting your business through choice or absolute necessity. And then after that, like I said, Katie's going to, the interview that I did with Katie, all about how Stoicism can help you overcome any obstacles in life. And then finally, I'm going to close with some closing remarks and talk about what's next for Newcastle Startup Week, the Startup Week community, and I'm going to make an announcement. Like I say, I'm making it sound really dramatic. It's not that dramatic, but it might be to some of you. But yeah, stick around for that. That'll be around about 3:00 this afternoon. Loads of cool stuff going on. Hope you find it valuable. I'm sure you will. And yeah, leave any comments underneath this video. Keep helping and supporting each other. And so now I think she's sat there waiting. If she gives me a wave, yeah, she's ready to go. I'm gonna bring in Katie. So here we go. Katie,
hi.
How are you doing?
I'm good.
Good. Thanks for joining us.
Good to be here.
Yeah. So I don't know how much of that you heard, but I've already told everyone that we did an amazing interview all about what Stoicism is and how it can help you overcome any obstacles in life. So that's good this afternoon. But
I'm looking forward to seeing it because I've been in the dark. You've been able to watch it, and I haven't seen it yet.
Well, I haven't actually watched it back since we did it, but I just
amazing.
I know it was amazing. I just know it was amazing, and I know that a lot of people will find it really, really interesting and beneficial to them as well. And I think throughout the week as well, lots of people have been showing an interest in what Stoicism is, and I've had messages from people as well outside the Facebook group saying that they really want to get into it and they want to know about it, and they're looking forward to watching the interview and stuff. So I know there's quite a few things that you feel like you didn't get to say, even though we did like a 1 hour.
To be honest, like I had loads of notes, I had a lot of notes, but we kind of treated it a bit like a chat in the pub, didn't we? We went from one thing to another and it was very relaxed. So I think there's a few things, just little things that'll add on to what we talked about already. So I just want to go through a few things and then leave people with 6 quotes, which is really funny because people will be like 6 quotes, leave people with 1 quote, but I can't pick, there's too many amazing quotes. So the plan is to go over a few passages from The Obstacle is the Way, which obviously we talk about a lot. We talk about how you can turn obstacles into opportunities, and that fits really well into Stoicism. Then I want to read the passage out for today's entry from the Daily Stoic. And then I think we're just going to talk a little bit about what Stoicism is to me and the Savvy Stoic, and then leave people with the awesome quotes.
Yeah.
So how does that sound?
Sounds perfect. So go on, Obstacle is the Way.
Right, let's start with The Obstacle is the Way. So this book we talk quite a lot about in the longer conversation. It's very relevant to what Stoicism is. But there's 3 disciplines within the book, and there's perception, action, and will. And I slightly touch on what they are, but I feel like it might be beneficial just to read. So this is like part 1, and then there's part 2 and part 3. So I think it'll be helpful just to read them out to kind of help people understand a little bit more about the concept of what it is. Yeah. So I'll delve into that. And then I want to read the full quote from Marcus Aurelius, because this is on the back of our coins. We'll have the impediment action, advances action, what stands in the way becomes the way. And I think it's going to be a good idea to read the full quote, which that came from, because that's just a little excerpt. And then I'm going to leave people with a Ryan Holiday quote from the book. That is a really, really good quote.
Right. So over to you.
Right. Little drink of coffee. Right. So, like I said, this book's split into 3 different parts. You have the perception, action, and the will. So I'll read part 1, then I'll go to part 2, and then I'll go to part 3. So what is perception? It's how we see and understand what occurs around us and what we decide those events will mean. Our perceptions can be a source of strength or of great weakness. If we are emotional, subjective, and short-sighted, we only add to our troubles. To prevent becoming overwhelmed by the world around us, we must, as the ancients practiced, learn how to limit our passions and their control over our lives. It takes skill and discipline to bat away the pests of bad perceptions, to separate reliable signals from deceptive ones, to filter out prejudice, expectation, and fear. But it's worth it, for what's left is truth. While others are excited or afraid, we remain calm and imperturbable. We will see things simply and straightforwardly, as they truly are, neither good nor bad. This will be an incredible advantage for us in the fight against obstacles. So I know I touched on what perception is, and it's how you see the world, but I think Ryan Holiday, you kind of get better from his example. So it helps just to kind of see what that is a little bit more. And by controlling your perceptions, it allows you to control the situation. So something which I'm not sure if we're touched on, but in the other conversation, but obviously Stoicism, the only thing you control is how you react to a situation. So you don't control the external situation, you just control your perceptions. And it's a core principle of Stoicism. So I just wanted to read that page out because I think it does it more justice than what I did, basically. So that's the first part of the book. Then you have action. So what is action? Action is commonplace. Right action is not. As a discipline, it's not any kind of action that will do, but directed action. Everything must be done in the service of the whole. Step by step, action by action, we'll dismantle the obstacles in front of us. With persistence and flexibility, we'll act in the best interests of our goals. Action requires courage, not brashness, creative application and not brute force. Our movements and decisions define us. We must be sure to act with deliberation, boldness, and persistence. Those are the attributes of right and effective action. Nothing else, not thinking or evasion or aid from others. Action is the solution and the cure to our predicaments. So, how many, I know speaking from personal experience, how many times do you just act when something comes your way? You don't think about it. You don't take a second to stop and think about what the right action is. You just kind of act straight away.
Yeah.
And at the start where it says what is action, action is commonplace, right action is not. So that's kind of re-saying that a lot of people just act straight away without thinking about what the right action is. And it's very important, obviously, when you're deciding whether to keep going or pivot, what is the right action to do? You really have to stop and take a second to think about that. And by controlling your perceptions, it allows you to move towards the right action. We'll talk about that in a little bit more detail when we get to the full quote from Marcus Aurelius, but that's the second part of the book. Yeah. Then we have the will. So we talk about the will when we talk about James Stockdale. Do you remember when we talked about the POW in the prisoner of war camp? So he had to rely on his will heavily, that he had all his agency taken away from him. He didn't really have any actions that were his own. He only had his internal will. So this is the last part, and then we'll move on to the quote. What is will? Will is our internal power, which can never be affected by the outside world. It's our final trump card. If action is what we do when we still have some agency over our situation, the will is what we depend on when agency has all but disappeared. Placed in some situation that seems unchangeable and undeniably negative, we can turn it into a learning experience, a humbling experience, a chance to provide comfort to others. That's willpower. But that needs to be cultivated. We must prepare for adversity and turmoil. We must learn the art of acquiescence and practice cheerfulness even in dark times. Too often people think that will is how bad we want something. In actuality, the will has a lot more to do with surrender than with strength. Try God willing over the will to win, or willing it into existence, for even those attributes can be broken down. True will is quiet humility, resilience, and flexibility. The other kind of will is weakness disguised by bluster and ambition, say which lasts longer under the hardest of obstacles. So all of them parts adds together to create a strong mindset so you can tackle whatever obstacle comes your way. You control your perception, that leads to the right action. And then when you don't have a choice, all agency has disappeared. All you have to rely on is your internal will. So although we touched on it, I think I said like a sentence on each of them. So I think reading that out is definitely, it'll help people understand the concept a little bit more when they get to the larger video.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, because I need to buy that book now. Because I mean, I knew bits of it, obviously from what I've been reading, but that really clear definitions of the three parts. Which, yeah, I love it. I mean, when you're saying there about like you say, you can't really control anything or what other people do, but one thing you can control is how you react to situations and events. So that's the key thing that I really love about Stoicism that I've taken from it. And then the idea of reacting is acting, or like people talk about reacting because they're just responding like a knee-jerk reaction. You know, you talk about knee-jerk reaction because something's happened and you just respond and you're not really thinking about it. And it's usually from emotion, an emotional response. And then So you talk about react or overreact as well.
Well, the Stoic,
Uh-huh.
there's something called like the first impression, and that's basically what it sounds. It's the first impression of the situation. So let's say that, I don't know, I'm trying to think of something that isn't really bad, but let's say that you lose £100. So your head thinks, oh, I've lost £100. That's the first impression. That is the situation. That's what's occurred. And then after that, the Stoics say you add value judgments. So I've lost £100, and that is bad. So what you do is you control your perceptions, and you don't add any subjective value judgments to that. You remain objective, and you stay with the first impression. So the first impression is that I've lost money. And that's neither good nor bad. There's a quote from Shakespeare, and it says neither good nor bad, but thinking makes it so. And that is such a Stoic quote, because it's what the Stoics tell you. It's not the external circumstance, it's your judgment of that situation that has created the problem.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely think like you should get this book, but I'll listen to the audio version, and I think he's got an awesome voice, so maybe do that.
Yeah, and just quickly before we move on to the next bit, like will, like the definition of what will is, I love that. And then I was just thinking, when you were talking willpower, like having the power to control your will, I'd never really thought of it that way before, but right, love it. Right, okay, right. What's next?
There is a quote from Ryan Holiday, which is Ryan Holiday's the author of the book. So it talks about perception and action, so how the right perception leads into the right action. So I'll say that, then we'll go on to the quote from Marcus Aurelius. Where the head goes, the body follows. Perception precedes action. Right action follows the right perspective, sorry. So you see how if you have the right perspective in a situation, you're more likely to lead on to the right action. Yeah. So that's how they fit together. And then obviously that's your agency. And when you don't have any agency left, you go to the will, you rely on your internal strength. But I just thought that was a really good quote, because it shows how the disciplines connect with each other. And obviously perception, controlling your perception is probably the most important thing out of everything. Yeah. But that's the quote. And actually, I'm not sure if the full quote's got to be in there, but you know how we've got a little quote from a coin. Mm-hmm. So that's just an excerpt from a larger quotation that is from the Meditations, which everyone should read at least once in their life. I can see you
can see the case there. You can see Meditation, Marcus Aurelius.
It's such a good book, but I would suggest you've got I'm sorry that I taught you to get the Penguin Classics one, but that was when I had the Penguin Classics one. This one, the Gregory Hayes translation, it's what Ryan Holiday suggests, and it's such a good book. So I would definitely, to be honest, reading different translations is good, because you get different viewpoints from the author. Ideally, if you can read Greek, read it in Greek, because then you're getting the actual book. But yeah, right. So this is the quote from it, and it says, our actions may be impeded, but there can be no impeding our intentions or dispositions, because we can accommodate and adapt. The mind adapts and converts to its own purposes the obstacle to our acting. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Marcus Aurelius. So obviously we just read the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. But that's the larger quote. And it basically says that every obstacle you face it's a way to advance towards your next action. So as opposed to seeing an obstacle as something that's stopping you from moving forward, it's stopping you from advancing, you see it as an opportunity to take you to the next action that you need to take. It's all about flipping your mindset again, which we talk about a lot in the other talk. But it's just what stands in the way is the way, and the action is the solution to the problems that you're facing. Yeah. So I felt like I needed to read the bigger quote out, because it's an amazing quote, and although the little excerpt kind of says what you need to say, the bigger quote's definitely worth listening to. And there's another quote from the book that it's every single chapter start with a quote from someone because it's a different story. So this is a little quote, and there's one that I really love from Benjamin Franklin, so the founding father of America. Apparently, or one of them, apparently they were really into Stoicism, and this quote says, "Those things that hurt instruct." So it's kind of the same idea. The things that hurt you are there to teach you, they're there to instruct you and make you a better person. So it's one of my favorite concepts for Stoicism. I absolutely love it. So the struggles we face in life are there to help you grow and help you on the path to success. And this is really important for any entrepreneur, business owner, creator to realize, because we're all going to face obstacles in our life, and the only thing we can do, well, you've got two options. You can either run away from them or not move forward, or you can embrace them with everything that you have, and that's what you should do. You should just run towards the obstacles and give it your best shot, because, well, what's your other option? You don't really have one that's constructive. So that's one of the best things you can learn, is how to embrace obstacles in a constructive manner, I think. And yeah, going back to what was said before, like the only thing you control is yourself. So you need to recognize what the obstacle is, recognize that there's some gold within that obstacle, and if you do that, you're gonna be able to handle them in a positive manner and work like hell to push through everything that comes your way. Because obviously all week we've been watching from the inspiration stage to the keep going and pivot stage and everything in between. And so many people have so many obstacles heading the way. Starting a business, is, I think Elon Musk said, it's like staring into the abyss and eating glass or something insane. So it's really hard, obviously, and you're gonna deal with every obstacle that can be possibly thrown your way. The funding's not gonna work. The business is you're gonna have to pivot. Things are gonna go crazy. But if you embrace the obstacles and you see it all as a learning journey, you're gonna be in a much better place. So I have one more quote, and then we're done with the obstacle is the way. I don't even know.
Yeah. Other people are loving it as well. There's some nice quotes here. People saying how much they're loving it. So go on, keep going.
So I don't know if this is actually in the book, but I think Marcus Aurelius might be my favourite Stoic philosopher, and we'll touch on the other two. But this fits in quite nicely to what we're talking about. So don't think that what is hard for you to master is humanly impossible. And if it is humanly possible, consider it to be within your reach. So I know, speaking from personal experience, there's been so many times where I've thought, I cannot do this. It's impossible. How on earth am I going to do it? But if it's humanly possible to be done, you can do it. It's just you may have to work a little bit harder than someone else. You may have to go and learn a new skill. You may have to change your mindset. But if it's humanly possible, you can do it. And that's the first time I heard that, I was like, oh my God, like it blew my mind away, because so many times in life I've thought, well, you cannot do that, or you don't have that skill to do that, or you're not able to do that, when really you just have to kind of guard your perceptions, put your self-limitations and doubts down, or even just let them be there and rise above them. But if it's humanly possible, you can do it. It's an amazing quote from Marcus Aurelius. So that's the obstacle is the way, done in a nutshell.
Amazing. I love it. Because, yeah, like you say, it's not like you're saying, I want to fly, because that's not humanly possible. But if it's humanly possible, if other people have done it, then you can do it as well. You might just have to, like you say, just have to learn something new, or grow your network, or try a bit harder. So love it, right? And then are we going to talk about this, the Daily Stoic?
We are.
So, right, just quick, like every morning, I think I bought this in May, right? So I think every morning the first thing I do is I get up and I read whatever the entry is for that. So I'll put the kettle on, make my breakfast, and I sit down and I read, because every day has a different page.
Yeah.
So that's the very first thing that I do is read this, and then I listen to some music, and then I start the day. So go on, tell me what the Daily Stoic and you're going to read out today as well.
I do have this one, but this is like my Bible now, which we talk about in the thing. So I'm going to read from this one. But I do the same every morning. So my morning routine is I get up. I wish I could say I get up really early. It is something that I try, but I suck at getting up past 7:30's like my good point.
Good.
On 7:30 is just, I'm like dead. No amount of coffee will save us. So that's what I do. I get up around about 7:30. I do a 20-minute meditation. I look at my prints behind us after my meditation, and then I read this, and then I just sit and kind of contemplate it a little bit. And sometimes obviously I'll do like a social post where I'll talk about it in a little bit more in depth if it's really resonated with us. But it's just a really good book. Like you say, it's got quotes from loads of different Stoics, and if anyone enjoys this conversation or the talk later, I would definitely recommend to start with it, because it's just a really good introduction to Stoicism. But today's talk, or today's passage from it, is from Seneca, and I'll read it out and then we'll talk about it in a little bit more detail. So September 25th, the vulnerability of dependence. Show me someone who isn't a slave. One is a slave to lust, another to greed, another to power, and all are slaves to fear. I could name a former consul who is a slave to a little old woman, a millionaire who is a slave of the cleaning woman. No servitude is more abject than the self-imposed. Seneca, Moral Letters, 47.17. We're all addicts in one way or another. We're addicted to our routines, to our coffee, to our comfort, to someone else's approval. These dependencies mean we are not in control of our own lives. The dependency is. Anyone who truly wants to be free, Epictetus said, won't desire something that is actually in someone else's control unless they want to be a slave. The subjects of our affection can be removed from us at a moment's notice. Our routines can be disrupted. The doctor can forbid us from drinking coffee. We can be thrust into uncomfortable situations. This is why we must strengthen ourselves by testing these dependencies before they become too great. Can you try going without this or that for a day? Can you put yourself on a diet for a month? Can you resist the urge to pick up the phone to make that call? Have you ever taken a cold shower? It's not so bad after the first couple of times. Have you ever driven a friend's car while the nicer one you own was in the shop? Was it really that bad? Make yourself invulnerable to your dependency on comfort and convenience, or one day your vulnerability might bring you to your knees. So that is just a really wonderful passage about obviously how we can become vulnerable by being dependent on our routines, things we like, other people. And I think COVID has definitely shown where that, well, it can just all change in a second. Like everyone's routine's been disrupted, everyone's normal way of life has been disrupted. I mean, for the first part of lockdown, toilet roll and coffee, that disappeared. So like just everything can be taken away in a second. And I think the only line I touched on when we talked about that in the longer talk was the little line about everyone's a slave to fear. And I know that although what I've really enjoyed about doing that first video with you and doing this is that although I've grown loads in the last 2 years, I think I've indulged in fear a lot more than I needed to. Like this has shown us that I think fear is a friend and you need to embrace it. Otherwise it's just, you're going to be a slave to it and you're not going to get anywhere. And what this has helped us realize is you do the scary things and you still feel scared, you feel anxious, you feel worried, and that's not going to go away. Like a Stoic still feels them emotions, but if you guard your perceptions and you think, well, yes, I feel this, but I'm just going to deal with it, I'm just going to accept it, and I'm going to be present in the situation and just keep going. So I'm really happy with what I've achieved so far, because obviously, well, you know how nervous I was before. Every time we do something, I've been like, oh my God, I've been so unstoic. And then you're just like, Katie, it's fine. So it's really good. But I heard a quote and it says, everything we want is on the other side of fear. and I cannot remember who said it. I think there's a guy called Jason Silver. Check his stuff out on YouTube. He's amazing. He does videos in real time, and he doesn't edit them, so he just starts, and it's all this poetic, lovely flow that's just coming out, and it's dead philosophical. It's a really cool guy. But I heard that in one of his videos, and I think it's so true. We can indulge in fear so much, and you just need to accept it. You just need to say, okay, I am here, and I'm just going to feel it, but I'm just going to keep going. Like, I loved what Nigel said at the start of the week when he asked you who was the most important person to him at the minute, and you were like, your wife, your kids? And he's like, no, Paul.
Yeah.
And I was this morning, I was like, that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to forget that this is live, and I'm just going to think, Paul, you are my sole focus right now, and kind of just move forward with that. And yeah, like, fear is your friend. I generally think that's quite true.
Those are great quotes. I think I saw you or Tony Robinson. I think it might have been on LinkedIn. He said how he still gets nervous. Been doing talks, public speaking for years. He knows what he's talking about. He's more knowledgeable than anyone else I know on his topic, but he still gets nervous and worries about it. So
it was really comforting to hear that.
It doesn't go away, and and I love it that you've done the interview and you're doing this today, because you've got so many good things to share, and you're so knowledgeable about it and so passionate about it, and it's resonating with people. So yeah, I love it. Yeah. So thank you for doing it.
Thank you for honestly helping us get to this point. Like I said, it's funny because it's one thing to talk about Stoicism, but it's another thing to actually have to embody the practices. So I talk about Stoicism in an abstract way. I read about it, but it's a practical philosophy. Ancient philosophy was a philosophy that was concerned with how one should live. It's not like an academic philosophy now where it's all abstract and you're talking about metaphysical theories and epistemological theories. It's like big words. Stoicism, although it is very academic, you can learn about it in an academic way. It's practical, and I just kind of focused on learning about it. But this has made us realize that I have to like embody the Stoic principles more than I ever thought, and that's probably one of the things about it.
You have to live it. You are living it. I think that might have been another quote in the Daily Stoic a while, quite recently. But I think it was in that. He was talking about not just reading about it, but actually practicing it, and and living your life according to it, because you're never done. You're never like the complete Stoic. It's like an ongoing thing that if you really want to do it, just embrace it and live it.
There's something called a Stoic sage, and you may have came across it when like you've been reading. And there was this ideal Stoic sage, and they said apparently like there would be calm even on the rack being tortured. And it's insane, isn't it? So I think that's an ideal. It's like going around trying to get Plato's Republic. It's not going to happen. But yeah, I'm going to keep trying my very hardest to do it, because I think it's the route to a good life. But we'll go back to the keep going or pivot, because we've gone off a tangent. So I've got some notes here, and obviously that passage ties in quite well with keep going or pivot, because at some point every business owner, every entrepreneur, every creative is going to have to ask themselves this question. And Seth Godin has a book. I haven't listened to it or read it, so if anyone has, let us know in the comments. But it's called The Dip, and it's basically about that. It's when that dip in motivation or enthusiasm disappears, and you have to ask yourself, like, why am I doing this? Do I want to continue with it? Mm-hmm. So sometimes we can become very dependent on a certain career path, a certain business, or a certain idea, and that can stop us from pivoting when it may feel like it's the right thing to do. But say if that job's your identity, or it's going well and that you're earning a good income, some people might be like, well, hang on, this is going really good, Paul. Why do you want to stop doing that? And you've kind of, what was your thought process with, obviously you're pivoting with Startup Week, aren't you? So you kind of, what was that thought process like? Because it's a successful event. I know COVID came along and obviously stopped you from doing it the way that you wanted to do it. So you still had to pivot. But was it an easy decision to think, well, I'm going to kind of change the way this is done when it's working out, when it's so successful, to move towards this new exciting venture, Tribes? Or do you just feel like it's the right thing to do?
Well, I'm going to go into more detail on it later today, so I don't want to give away too much now. But I think, yeah, just like you say, I think the whole Stoicism has helped in these principles, because it's like, yeah, I'm known to some people, that's what they know me for doing, like Newcastle Starter Week. That's all they know that I do. But I've been doing stuff way before that, and there's other stuff I want to do as well. So I don't just want to keep doing it just for the sake of doing it. And amazing as it is, and as much as I love it, I'm gonna keep doing this, like, Starter Week community. I'm gonna keep this running through the Facebook group, and keep doing all the same things, but just doing it in a different way, in a different format, and using, and yeah, like after, well, the first one, 2017. So this is the 4th year of doing it, and but I started my business in 2016. So yeah, there's throughout the year, there's moments where you dip and you're like, oh, can I be bothered to do another one? Someone explained it once and said it's a bit like doing a marathon. I've never done a marathon, but they're like, you train so hard for it and you're working towards this thing, you do it, and at the end of it, you're like, I'm never doing another one of those again. But then a few weeks later, you're like, that was amazing. Yeah, I want to do it again. But then why are you doing it? Like, is it just because you're addicted to the kind of the highs and the adrenaline and like the feeling that you get from doing it? But is that the right thing for me? Is it the right thing for my business? Is it the right thing for people that come to the event? Like all these factors, I've just been thinking a lot about that. So yeah, it's not easy, because like you say, could just keep doing it and it's going well. And like this week's been amazing. May was amazing. Like there's loads of good things about it, but I'd rather kind of stop at a high.
Yeah, I get you. Like,
and then just think that was an amazing, beautiful thing. Let's just like.
Well, you've built an amazing community, so that's not going away, is it? Like that's still going to be around. So like you say, if you end it on high, then that's definitely a good idea. But I wanted to ask you that question, because that fits in well with, like, it is hard to stop doing something when it's going so well. It's easier to be like, oh, I need to change career because I've lost my job or because I generally don't like it. But when it's going really well and you want to start something else, that's when it becomes difficult. That's when you have to ask yourself those questions. Why am I doing this? Yeah. So yeah, I just thought I'd chuck that question out to you. Yeah. But yeah. So that fits in quite well as to asking yourself the question of why are you doing it. So a lot of people there've been amazing stories this week about people who have set up businesses, and the Stoics kind of say that you should do something because it's good. So are you doing this business because you want to get material goods, because you want to be wealthy, because you want a good reputation? Are you doing it because you love it, because you generally love the thing that you want to start doing or that you're doing, and you want to leave the world a better place? So that's the question you kind of have to ask yourself, is you have to think really hard, why am I doing this? Because that'll help you answer the question of, do I want to keep going or pivot? And the Stoics, they love to categorize things, but they place money and material goods and reputation in preferred indifference. So they basically said you should be indifferent to pretty much everything, but obviously it's preferred to be wealthy than poor, because you've got more opportunities, it's better. But money, can it be good for the Stoics? Because for something to be good, it has to be good in all circumstances. So think about gambling. A modern analogy would be gambling. So if someone had a lot of money and they had a gambling addiction, that would be very bad, because it would just fuel that addiction. Whereas someone who didn't have a gambling addiction might spend the money really, really well, but there's two different situations there where money's good and it's bad. So therefore, money, can it be good? So you have to ask yourself, why are you doing this? And if you're doing it because there's a purpose behind it, there's a reason you want to help someone. So there's been a few businesses this week. Nicole, I think it was Nicole Black, she had a nature business, and she's doing it because she wants to create natural, beautiful products that are going to help people relax. Wonderful idea, wonderful reason to set up a business. Oh, there was another one, Louise, I cannot remember her second name, but she was doing a mental health business.
Yeah.
And that's another...
Debenham, yeah.
Yeah, Louise Debenham. So that was another business that is so purposeful. There's a reason you should do it. You can see that you should keep going with that if you're enjoying it. But if you're just doing it to get rich, or you're doing it because you want the reputation, then I don't even think that's going to get you through all the obstacles that are going to come your way. You need to have passion and purpose behind why you're doing it. So that's really important. And then the sad thing is that, or the difficult thing is, the only person who can answer the question of should I keep going or pivot is you. And that's why it's so difficult. That's why you have to really take the time to sit and think about it, and don't just rush talking about action. What we talked about before, action is commonplace, right action is not. So you have to think about it really, really in depth and ask yourself these tough questions to make the right action. So that's why, going back to the passage, the only person you should be dependent on, if you're going to be dependent on, is yourself. Like, be dependent on yourself. Obviously have friends and family and a network that's going to pick you up, but you need to be self-sufficient, and that's the point of Stoicism. It's to be self-sufficient. So yeah, that's keep going up here a bit, I think.
Okay, so going to talk about what Stoicism actually is to you, and sort of why 4 years or so.
So Stoicism is loads of things, and we'll talk about obviously how I got into Stoicism in the talk a lot more. But for me, it's an accountability philosophy. So it's a way for us to hold myself accountable for everything that I say, I do, and I think. And a lot of people I used to blame other people. I used to kind of fall into a victim mentality to say, oh, well, I feel this way because so-and-so made us feel like this, or this person's made us upset or unhappy. I can no longer do that. I can no longer blame anyone apart from myself for how I feel. And that's been one of my favorite things about it, because I have to hold myself accountable to every single thing I do in this life, as opposed to just saying, oh, well, someone made us feel like that, or someone made us do this. You are solely responsible for everything you do in this life. And until finding Stoicism, I didn't really realize that, which sounds really silly, but it's a way for me to hold myself accountable. And it's also helped us change my perception and mindset with certain things. So failure, obstacles, and anxiety. Anxiety has been something that I've struggled with for so long, and it's one of the reasons I think I've indulged in fear for so long. So I used to take propanol for anxiety. It was that bad. I literally had to take medication, and I found Stoicism, and then I was like, this is a way that I can kind of move away from medication, and I can just rely on myself. And it's been a difficult journey. I still got really anxious, but it's like my ticket to freedom. It's my path to building a good character and a good life, and I love it. Like, I literally love it. I couldn't have found a better philosophy to live my life by. So it's helped us in so many different ways that I can't even express it in words how much it means to us. It means the world.
Good. Well, that's why I'm glad that you're doing this. That's why I wanted you to do this live stream and the interview that we're going to share. And then that's why I think it's so good that you're doing the Savvy Stoic as well. So do you want to explain what that is and why you call yourself that, and what the plans are for the Savvy Stoic?
So the Savvy Stoic is my personal brand, and it sounds weird saying that because I only kind of
embrace it.
Definitely. But I started it, I think,
you talk about it all the time. You are like that. you are the living embodiment of Stoicism, like that, and that's what you're trying to do. But you, like you say, what I was saying before, you're not the finished article. You're still working on it as well. So that resonates with people as well, that you're still working on it. And so yeah, go on. I'm stealing.
Well, that's what when you say I'm a work in progress, I'll always be a work in progress, will always be a work in progress. No matter how far you think you've came, there's always another mountain to get over. There's always another obstacle. And the reason I want to start the Savvy Stoic, so it's gonna be a place where I can basically turn my pain, all the trauma I've been through, everything I've experienced up to this point. I want to turn that pain into passion. I want to turn it into passion and purpose, so that I can help other people deal with grief, anxiety, fear. And it's a place where I can document everything, all my personal growth journey. Like you say, you're always progressing. And the last 2 years, I have pivoted loads, and we might talk about my pivoting journey, but I've honestly changed course so many times, and I haven't documented it because I've been scared and I haven't wanted to press record on the camera or something like that. And I feel like this is going to be the place where I can be really vulnerable. I can show people that I am scared, I'm anxious, but I'm willing to put myself out there and document it. So the Savvy Stoic is basically, it's going to be a website first. It's going to be where I write longer form content and blog posts, and I'm actually doing it as a project module for my second semester in uni. So I do business classics and philosophy at university, and the business modules for this year sounded really boring, which sounds bad, but they sounded quite boring. And I managed to kind of work my way out into not doing any business modules and doing combined honours modules. So one of the modules that I'm doing is I'm creating the website for the Savvy Stoic, and then I have to go live with it and write about it, and it's a really reflective module. So I'm going to do that, and that's what the Savvy Stoic is. But I also want to create video content, which is one of the reasons I want to do this live video or do the other thing with you. I want to push myself out there and know that I can do it. So it's basically going to be a website first, answering the all-important question of how to live our best life through using Stoic principles and practices. And then I'm just going to write about things that I've dealt with, so my fears, my anxieties. Obviously, I've been through a lot, and we'll talk about that in the talk, but I have one post in particular that I think I'm really excited for writing about, and it's about grief. So one of my biggest regrets is not reading quotations out at my mum's funeral, and I got 2 quotes from Seneca, and I asked what do you call the person that reads the stuff out? I don't know if it was a religious priest, but it wasn't a priest. But so I give her these 2 quotes from Seneca, and basically she read them out. But before she went up, she turned to us and she was like, "Do you not want to read these out? Like, they seem really important. Do you not want to read them out?" And at that time, I was like, I cannot get up in front of all these people and read this out. And it is one of the biggest regrets that I've ever had. So that's part of the reason why I want to create this YouTube channel and talk about Stoicism and kind of make up for that. But it's another thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to document challenges, so people can send us loads of challenges and be like, you should do this or that. And what I want to do is I want to document the challenge and talk about what Stoic principle I've used to get over that challenge. So I don't just want to preach about Stoicism and say, this is going to help you do this. I want to show people that it's actually helped me in this way and that I can help them in that way. So basically, the Savvy Stoic is a place to turn my pain into passion and purpose. That's what it's going to be.
Love it. Well, I've already. We'll put a link underneath after this, but people can sign up for it. They can put their email address in to subscribe.
Yeah, I've got a London page
when that goes live, and I know you're going to be brilliant at it, and I'm looking forward to seeing how you do it. And I know you regret not reading those things out, but I don't think you weren't ready at the time. Do you know what I mean? You're more ready now. So that's that. Yeah. So I know you regret it, but you shouldn't regret too much. Like what's happened. That's got you to where you are now as well. And that's all part of getting you to where you are now. So
definitely, I think you need to go through the things that that you regret. Hindsight, isn't it? Like you need to go through that to get to where I am. And there's been so many different points. So I'll briefly touch on my pivot and journey, and then I'll read the quotes out, the final quotes. But so keep going or pivot is today's theme, and I have pivoted like so much over the last 4 years. So in 2016, I studied business for 2 years in college because it was that of politics, and there was no way I was doing politics. I was more interested in business. So I'd done business, I got the highest grade I could get, and then I thought I wanted to be a chartered surveyor. So I applied to do a real estate degree at 5 different unis, and I got accepted to all of them, but I wanted to stay close to home. So I went to Northumbria. And this is funny, but don't ever base your real estate degree on a TV show. I don't know if anyone remembers. Everyone remembers there was a show called Location. And what happened is there was 2 real estate people, and they would take different families around or couples, and whichever one basically bought a house, they would win out of the competition. And I was like, I really like the look at that. I was like, I love the idea of showing people their favorite homes or showing people around. So that was my basis to study real estate, and I'd done a year. And although I passed everything and I'd done really well, I hated it. Like, it was just really boring. I'd done valuation exams, and then the second year was mortgage valuation. So I stopped, and I was like, I cannot do this. So my partner was like, just take a year out. And I love him to bits. He's so sweet. And he was like, I'll just pay for you to kind of live for the year, basically. So I took a year out. And at the start of that year, I went to Australia with my friend for 3 weeks, which was a really nice way to kind of just relax and feel a bit better about taking a year out. But I thought to myself, I'm going to have to do something. Like, this 1 year out turned into 2 years. And I thought, I'm going to have to do something. I can't just sit on my arse for like 2 whole years. So what I did is I started a little pet wellness nutrition book called Epoch.pet. And that's basically what got me into this business community. So I slaved away for 6 months on that. And then kind of towards the end of 2018, I thought, I might turn this into a business, because I didn't really have any plans of going back to university, and it was going well, and I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. So I thought maybe I could set up a little e-commerce store to go alongside that. So you'll know the business centre in Sunderland, the big centre. I went there, got an amazing business advisor. She helped us so much, and she sent us on a Boost Your Business residential course, and that's where I met Ian Farrer, and it all got better from there. He's absolutely amazing. I love him to bits, and I'm so grateful for everything that he's done. I literally wouldn't be sitting here having this conversation with you if it wasn't for him introducing us to this network. So we kept in touch after that, and I ended up not going ahead with the business for a few reasons, but that's kind of the journey of Epoch.pet and how I got here. And after deciding not to go ahead with the business, I felt like I'd failed. Going back to what we talked about with the identity, that was my identity at the time. I was like, I'm setting this business up. It's what I'm doing. I'd work so hard for 6 months. I got to the point where I was ready to take £10,000 out, like a loan from the transmit company. And then I stopped, and I asked myself, why am I doing this? And I didn't have a good enough reason to like submit that application. Although I love Epoch.pet and my pet wellness blog, it's what's got us to this point, and I still continue blogging and writing, and there's so much great content on there. I didn't want to set up an e-commerce store because I didn't have a good enough reason to do so. So I decided not to do that. And then I felt a bit hopeless after a little while, because I was like, well, what on earth are you going to do, Katie? And I decided to go back to uni. So obviously I found Stoicism, and that persuaded us to do philosophy. And now I feel like I'm at the right place. Like, I'm studying a combined honours at Newcastle in business, classics and philosophy. And although I've pivoted so much, I generally feel like I'm where I'm meant to be. Yeah. So if anyone's worried and they're like, how I feel so lost and I don't know where I'm going to go or how I'm going to progress, just trust the process. Don't think about the end goal, because the process is all you control. And every single time I've pivoted, it's it's added to my journey. It's made me who I am. And if I had just stayed in that real estate degree because I thought, oh, well, this is such a good opportunity. I've been accepted. I'm doing really good in my grades. I would have never met you. I would have never been a part of the business community. And so sometimes it's right to pivot. You just have to ask yourself like those questions. Are you enjoying this? Are you doing it for a purposeful reason? And if you are, keep going. But if you're not, do not be afraid to pivot, because we talk about memento mori so much in the talk. This might be your last day. You might not wake up tomorrow. So don't spend any more of your life wasting it on something that you don't feel like you want to do. So obviously I'm doing a degree now, and this next few years I feel like I'm just going to devote to the Savvy Stoic, devote to Stoicism, and something I really want to do is start a YouTube channel. So I want to just get over that obstacle of video content, and I generally feel like I'm slowly starting to get there, and it's one of the reasons I wanted to do this, because hopefully people enjoy the conversation and the talk, and that'll give us a little bit more confidence about moving forward with it. So that's my crazy journey. In 4 years, I've literally gone from being going to be a chartered surveyor, to setting up a business, to starting a blog, and just kind of now being back in a degree. But I told myself when I wasn't going to go ahead with the business that the next 3 years are just all about personal growth. It's about pushing myself out there and being comfortable, being uncomfortable. That's the plan. So yeah, that's my crazy journey.
That was an amazing example or definition of what keep going or pivot's all about. So yeah,
that's okay. Good. Right,
you got some quotes you're gonna read out. Is this it? Yeah.
No, that's funny. I told my other half yesterday, because I was like, I just want to go through these quotes with you. And he was like, how many quotes you doing? And I was like, 6. And he was like, Katie, people normally do 1 quote. And I was like, do you realize how many good Stoic quotes are out there? This is like tough. So I have 6 final quotes, and these quotes it's basically quotes that have really resonated with me throughout my Stoic journey. And there's a few that I'll talk about them as I go along, but they're just really great quotes from the 3 main Stoic philosophers, Seneca, Marcus Aurelius, and Epictetus. Yeah. So the first one, there are more things likely to frighten us than they are to crush us. We suffer more often in imagination than in reality. So this is from Seneca, and this is going back to controlling your perception of the situation. So we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. I know for myself that is so true. And apparently, I've just listened to David Goggins' book, who was a Navy SEAL, absolute legend. His book's called Can't Hurt Me. The average person has 2,000 to 3,000 thoughts an hour. Like, how on earth are you meant to control your perceptions when you've got that many thoughts running through your head? I think that's one of the reasons why I struggle with meditation so much, because it's like sometimes it's good and sometimes it's just like my head screaming at us. But yeah, so that quote helps us remind myself to control my perceptions, and that even if I cannot control my perceptions, the things that I'm worried about are not really going to come to pass. In reality, it's more likely that I'm just being irrational in the situation. So I put that quote in my personal statement when I was applying for university, because it's just one of the first quotes that I heard that I absolutely love.
Love it.
So
yeah.
I've done
talking. Keep going. They're loving it. So keep going.
Right. So quote number 2 is another one from Seneca, and I love this quote as well. So a good person dyes events with his own colour and turns whatever happens to his own benefit. Seneca. So again, I actually have this quote at the top of my Twitter banner because it's another one that I absolutely love. And we'll talk about amor fati in the talk, and people can learn what that is a little bit later. But there's something called the Art of Acquiescence, which is in the obstacle is the way. And it's basically accepting whatever comes your way. It's kind of like the obstacle is the way, but it's not just related to obstacles. It's related to everything that happens in this life. So you don't control what happens to you, but you control how you react to the situation. And you can choose to react to that situation and make it to your benefit. You can turn whatever happens to your benefit. It might be really hard when it's something that you think is bad, but it's a choice, again, to choose to turn whatever happens to your own benefit. So it's another one of Seneca's quotes that's really short, but it's just really, really meaningful, and I love it. And it's also about finding opportunity in whatever happens. So the next one, almost there. The next one is from Marcus Aurelius, and it says, "You could be good today, but instead you choose tomorrow." So you could be good today, but instead you choose tomorrow. Marcus Aurelius, how many times, I know speaking from personal experience, how many times do you put something off? Do you think, well, I'm just going to wait till Monday to do that, or I'm just going to wait till tomorrow to do that? And you could be good today. You could start that diet today. You could start the book that you want to learn, the course that you want to do today. But instead you choose to put it off to tomorrow. And that's something that I always go back to. I've got it dotted around the flat, because sometimes I'll think, well, I want to do this, but I'll just put it off into the future. And just, if you want to do something, do it. Because like I said, we talk a lot about memento mori. You might not get a chance to do it tomorrow. You might not wake up tomorrow. So just do it if you want to do something. And it's just another quote that I absolutely love. It's a really, really good quote. Right. I've got a rule as well, which is kind of going off on one, but it's a 2-minute rule. So if you've got a task and it's going to take you less than 2 minutes, just do it, because you don't want it in your head. You don't want it taking up like real estate in your head. You just want to get it done and then move on. So that's a little side note. But we're up to number 4. And this is another quote from Seneca. "I judge you unfortunate because you have never lived through misfortune. You've passed through life without an opponent. No one can ever know what you are capable of, not even you." Seneca. So this says challenging situation shows us what we're capable of. So it's again kind of rising to the obstacle, rising to the situation. And if you've lived an easy life and you've just stayed within your comfort zone and you haven't pushed yourself out there, you're never going to know what you can be capable of. You're never going to know if you can start that business if you don't try to start the business or start that project. So instead of looking at misfortune as something that's bad, look at it as something that's making you stronger. It's making you a better, stronger person. It's gonna help you move forward with whatever life throws at you, and it'll throw everything it's got at you. So just embrace whatever comes your way, and yeah, just don't stay within your comfort zone, because you're never going to know what you can achieve. So that's another one that I absolutely love. And then we'll have 2 quotes from Epictetus that we're going to end with, but I need a drink.
I'm loving this. I am loving this.
So the next one is quote 5, and it's not things that upset us, it's our judgment about things. So that's the core Stoic principle which we talked about at the start. It's not that something's good or bad, it's just your judgment about the situation. Remain within the first impression, remain objective, and don't add subjective value judgments to it, and you're going to be in a much better situation. So that's just a really, really short quote from Epictetus that is really good for reminding us that it's not the situation, it's the judgment. And Epictetus was a slave for 30 years of his life. His name literally means acquired in Greek. So he went through a lot, but still created an inner citadel of absolute fortitude and resilience. So just remember that if you're going through something, it's not the situation that's bad, it's how you perceive that situation that is bad, and you can control that. So we'll have the last one, which is, it's an amazing quote, and I haven't delved into Epictetus as much as Marcus Aurelius or Seneca. Seneca was who I delved into first, and then Marcus Aurelius, I think, is my favourite. And he's got loads of little pithy quotes that are really good to remember. But this one is wonderful, and then I'll talk about it a little bit. But how long are you going to wait before you demand the best of yourself? So I have a print here, which is Epictetus, and it says, how long are you going to wait before you demand the best for yourself? So it's a choice. It's a choice to be your best self. You just have to say, yes, I am going to rise above my self-limitations, my self-doubt. I'm gonna live my life like it's the fullest life that can be lived, because you can be great, you can be your best self. It's just a choice, and are you ready to make it? So that's one of the reasons why I love that quote, because it reminds us that I could be everything that I want to be. It's all inside of us. I just have to choose to demand the best from myself, and anyone can do that. It's a choice. So don't give in to those self-limitations or doubts. Rise above it and believe that you can be your best self. So that is the quote that I want to end people with, and I really hope people enjoyed this, and I hope people enjoy our talk that's coming up later on. And if they've got any questions about Stoicism, just send us a message, because I could talk to you for like hours and hours about this.
That was amazing. Honestly, like, that's a perfect way to start today. And I love hearing you talk about it, and I can talk to you for hours about it. And so, well, if you enjoyed it as much as I did, and I know a lot of people did from the comments, check out the interview that we did, which we're going to share later today about 2:00, because that's so good.
I also want to say that was my first ever interview or ever talk, like first ever bit of video content that I put out there.
The one that we're going to share later. So yeah. And you said you were nervous. You can't tell at all, because it's something that you love and you're really knowledgeable about, and you're really inspiring, Katie. Honestly, I love talking to you about it. I love hearing you talk about Stoicism. So I'm really grateful for you doing this live stream and the interview shared later.
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity, because it's been awesome. Like, I'm really, really grateful, and I'm grateful to be a part of such an amazing community. So if people have enjoyed Startup Week and they've just got a ticket for Startup Week, I'd highly suggest staying in the group, because I love it, and obviously you're amazing, and so many other people are amazing, and yeah, it's definitely worth being a part of such an amazing community. So thank you.
Thank you. All right. Okay, you can go and have a cup of tea and a chill out now.
I'll see you later.
See you later.